Resident Evil 9 is coming out very, very soon. Just a few months, actually. It comes out in February, I'm pretty sure, unless it gets delayed, and I am super excited. I don't get excited about video games anymore, but Resident Evil games, Resident Evil is literally my favorite franchise of all time. I own every mainline Resident Evil game and a lot of the extras, and I fucking love them. I fucking love them. I've been playing Resident Evil 4 on my gaming channel, link down there in the description. The OG Resident Evil 4. But let's get into a little bit of lore and history for the upcoming Resident Evil Requiem game. The entire story of Alyssa Ashcroft in Resident Evil explained, and that is the mother of Grace Ashcroft, who is the main character of Resident Evil 9. Let's get into it. Evil Blitz, I'm gonna subscribe. I like all the Resident Evil content.
Resident Evil 9 has been officially revealed, and with that comes the introduction of a new character to the series, Grace Ashcroft, who just so happens to be the daughter of Alyssa Ashcroft.
She's got a lot of similarities with Ashley from Resident Evil 4 too, and I fucking love it.
An investigative reporter who was involved in the iconic Raccoon City incident and other major incidents in the Resident Evil series. So to prepare you for Resident Evil 9, I will be covering Alyssa's entire story, starting with her deadly encounters in the Arklay Mountains, to her participation in the Raccoon City incident, all the way to her tragic death following her investigation at Wrenwood Hotel. So guys, without further ado, let's get right into it.
Yeah, was she a character? I mean, obviously she's got a character model, but was she like a playable character in any of the Resident Evil games? Like Outbreak or something? I don't remember her being a playable character in anything else. I just don't remember.
Ashcroft was born in the 1970s and spent her early life growing up in Raccoon City. As she grew older, she eventually pursued a career in journaling and became an investigative reporter. Her first documented investigation began in 1993 with a case that would unknowingly tie her to the Umbrella Corporation for the rest of her life. Alyssa and her colleague Kurt...
Dude, actually, if we could get some prequel games to Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 0, that'd be cool. Like, stuff that has nothing to do with Umbrella, it was just precursors to what Umbrella was gonna be. I think that they would be pretty successful. I think we should do that. If not, it'll be okay. I'm cool with going back to Raccoon City in Resident Evil 9, though. That sounds like fun.
Deep into the Arklay Mountains following rumors of corruption at a remote hospital. It turns out that their hunch was right, as unbeknownst to them, the hospital director Albert Lester had begun accepting bribes from Umbrella researcher Greg Mueller to illegally trial his experimental virus on cancer patients. And during this time, Albert's wife Dorothy was terminally ill and was stationed at the Arklay Hospital. In an act of desperation, Albert agreed to the trials and put his wife on trial in hopes that she may be cured. And much to his surprise, the experiment was initially a success, with both his wife and the other—
Let me guess, she turned into a crazy giant monster, right?
test patient being cured of their cancer. However, this would come at a cost, as shortly after the procedure, the test patient would pass away and Dorothy would mutate uncontrollably into a zombie that began to roam the halls and inflict chaos to the entire hospital. It was at this point when Alyssa and her partner Kurt would be called in to investigate, completely unaware of the dangers that await them. Shortly after entering into the building, Dorothy grabbed a hold of Kurt and brutally infected and murdered him on the spot. After Alyssa witnessed this tragedy, she would attempt to flee the hospital, but it wouldn't be long after when she was kidnapped by Umbrella researcher Greg Mueller and subjected to a procedure that would suppress her memories of the event in order to cover up the entire incident. Following this tragedy, Alyssa would continue her career in journaling for many years, and would work as a staff reporter for some media outlets. One of the companies she worked for was News Comet, where she wrote an entire article that reported on the discovery of a man's body found at Ames River in the Arklay Mountains. The article says the following: "Body washes up on shore of Ames. Alyssa Ashcroft, staff..."
What game is this? Hold on, I need to look it up. He's not telling me. Yeah, she primarily appeared in Resident Evil Outbreak and Resident Evil Outbreak File 2. She is one of the 8 playable characters in these games. Okay, anything else? Her legacy is referenced in Resident Evil 7, where newspaper... Okay. So I was right, it was the Outbreak games. So this is Outbreak. I don't think that I've ever played the Outbreak games, honestly. I probably should.
Reporter. The body of an unidentified white male has been found in the Ames River in the northwest Arklays. At least a year has passed since the man died, so the body has been impossible to identify. Powerful steroids along with other drugs were found in the body, and police are suspecting foul play. The river has been long used by local pharmaceutical companies as a dumping ground, and links to illegal activities in connection to that have not been ruled out. Now, unbeknownst to Alyssa, this was the result of the hospital director, Albert Lester, who had gone completely mad.
Which is, his name is very, very close to Albert Wesker.
After his wife's death and the hospital's collapse, and continued to roam around the Arklay Mountains, carving up anyone who stepped in his path. Alyssa would unfortunately cross paths with him later in her story. However, just before that, something disastrous would take place first.
That's usually how it
In
goes.
September of
Resident
1998, a deadly virus contaminated the Raccoon City's drinking water, causing a viral outbreak in the city which would quickly infect Alyssa.
Oh man, you got me wanting to play Resident Evil 1 and 2 again. And I've never played Resident Evil 3, which I'll probably get to. I want to play the original one first. I haven't played the original one. I've played the original Resident Evil 1 and 2. Which I probably won't go back to again. I'll probably just keep playing the remakes.
Following evening on September 24th, Alyssa was already showing signs of mutation, but even as the infection coursed through her body, she was determined to survive. And in a desperate attempt to escape the city, she made her way towards the surrounding mountains and took shelter into a nearby cabin. During this, she is greeted by Albert Lester. However, with her memories erased, she had completely forgotten about his ties to Umbrella. Albert claimed that he knew a way out of the city and offered to guide her through the mountains, and this ultimately took her back to the hospital as part of Albert's plans. See, over the years, a monster...
The vibes of Outbreak 1 and 2 are so good. I definitely got to play these games.
Plant that was held in the hospital's basement slowly consumed the building, and Albert came to believe that this plant was actually Dorothy's reincarnation. Because of this, he roamed the mountains for years, killing any animal and human in his path to feed the plant for nourishment. And this is why he lured Alyssa to the hospital, as he had plans to feed her to the plant. Now, during Alyssa's exploration, she began to recall her memories.
That dude with the axe really reminds me of the Executioner. I bet that they modeled the Executioner off of that guy.
Of her investigation with Kurt, and even came to remember his tragic death. It's here that she also discovers the truth about Umbrella and its conspiracy, and becomes more determined than ever to expose the company's corruption. After fending off the insane Albert Lester and defeating the massive plant in the basement, the building begins to collapse, but Alyssa is able to escape just in time and continue her escape of the city. And on October 1st, in the early hours of the morning, she managed to flee just before the city was nuked, though it is uncertain how exactly she escaped. With the use of a special vaccine, the infection was purged from her system before it could fully transform her, and she emerged not as a victim of the...
Was this before she got pregnant and had a child? So does that mean that Grace has got some crazy special powers or something? That'd be cool. Kind of like how Leon did in Resident Evil 4.
Outbreak, but as a witness and a threat to the secrets Umbrella tried to bury beneath the rubble of Raccoon City. Following the city's destruction, Alyssa continued what she did best, journaling. Channeling her trauma into truth, she published an expose titled "What is a BOW?", blowing the lid off of this horrifying secret project. In it, she detailed the inner workings of Umbrella's bioweapons program and its role in the massacre of the entire city. Supported by the testimonies of fellow survivors Yoko Suzuki and Linda Baldwin, the article helped ignite the Raccoon Trials, which was a 5-year legal battle that ultimately...
I think we need to bring some of these characters back, because I don't know who they are, and I think that we should know who they are.
Led to the downfall of Umbrella USA. But even with overwhelming evidence, truth was not so easily accepted.
And also, you know, Umbrella, not just Umbrella, like any kind of IRL corporations even, that are like this, that get shut down like that, they'll just become a different entity, or they've already started an entity that's actually their, like, mother company. In Resident Evil 5, it was Tricell. It was still Umbrella, but they rebranded and were a different thing. That's what they do.
The US government worked swiftly to contain the story, and over time, the events in Raccoon City were dismissed as an urban legend, and bioorganic weapons were labeled as a conspiracy. Despite the cover-up...
But how do they explain Resident Evil 6, then? I'd really like to know how they explain Resident Evil 6 away. Because that happened in a lot more places than just one place.
Alyssa would continue her investigative work, and would eventually find time to raise a daughter named Grace, who would later follow a path of her own into law enforcement. Even as the world moved on, Alyssa remained on the front lines of uncovering hidden threats, and in 2016, she reported on a series of mysterious disappearances in Dulvey, Louisiana, which was actually tied to the Baker family incident from Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, that's
her
cool.
report states the following: over 20 missing...
Yeah, I want more connections to other Resident Evil stuff. I want all of the Resident Evil stuff to be interconnected in like weird ways.
In 2 years, Captain Howell from State Police told reporters that they have started a search for Helen Midkiff, a college student from North Carolina who was traveling in Louisiana. Mrs. Midkiff hasn't been heard of since the night of—
It's been so long since I played Resident Evil 7 and 8, I really need to replay them. Especially Resident Evil 8.
the 21st. Reports of missing persons in South Louisiana have increased dramatically in the past 2 years. The majority of those missing are tourists and vagrants. At least 20 people are thought to have gone missing so far. Police suspect foul play and believe there may be a connection between the incidents. Plans are in place to step up local interrogations and increase personnel to further the investigations. Alyssa Ashcroft, January 19th, 2016. Her article, published in the Dolby Daily, stood as one of the only public records tied to the biological disaster that unfolded there. But like Raccoon City before it, the Dolby incident was quickly covered up, the area was quarantined, and the missing persons were left unacknowledged. Through every cover-up and threat, Alyssa Ashcroft remained defiant, acting as one of the few voices who refused to let the world forget what lurked beneath the surface.
Dude, I love this design. I love the design of Alyssa Ashcroft. Like this right here. This is so good. 10 out of 10.
Now, following the Baker incident, Alyssa Ashcroft's final—
And I like the way she looks as an older woman too. They did a really good job.
Documented investigation would take place at the Wrenwood Hotel, where she would be tragically murdered and never return. 8 years later, her daughter Grace Ashcroft would—
Every time I see wires now, I'm just gonna immediately think of Serial Experiments Lane.
be assigned to a case that would be tied to the hotel, and she would recall haunting flashbacks of Alyssa's final moments.
I know that's where your mother was murdered. Alyssa died 8 years ago.
Why would they let her do this?
Perhaps it's time for you to face
This kind of doesn't make sense, but, you know, I'll allow it. A lot of stuff just doesn't make sense in Resident Evil, and I'm okay with it. Just look at Resident Evil 5. He was punching a rock.
past.
Grace now seeks to uncover what her mother died trying to expose, and in Resident Evil 9, we may just find out the truth. But with that, we conclude the full story of Alyssa—
Is it a company that's operating as Umbrella did, but is not Umbrella? It's something that it is what Umbrella used to be.
Ashcroft in Resident Evil. And if you want to stay up to date with all the latest news and updates with Resident Evil 9, then be sure to subscribe. Also, let me know any theories you have for RE9 in the comments below. I'd love to know what you guys think. But guys, thank you for watching.
I don't want to think about Resident Evil 9 at all. I don't want to spoil anything. I kind of want to play that demo. Is the demo out? I'll play the demo. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell for all notifications. I'm probably going to do some more Resident Evil reactions in the coming days alongside my anime reactions that I will be continuing. See you in the next one.